Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to learn about literals and the different data types available in Python. So this is my Jupyter notebook and we have just gone through the contents. Let's start with literals. What are literals? Literals are notations for representing some fixed values. In layman language, the data itself is called literals. For example, 123, which means 123. This is a literal because in literal terms, it is a data that represents 123. Let's look at another example. C. C is not a literal because in layman language, there is no meaning to it. It is an alphabet until you put some value to it. Okay, so there is no data in it. Now, application of literals, we use literals to encode data and to put them into our code. Now, let's look at the types of literals. So, two basic types that we're going to cover is strings and numbers. Let's start with some application in the print function. So, you see two codes. First code is saying print, let's print the number 2 as a string first and then as an integer. So, let's see the difference. Okay. So in the second code, the first line print, I have put the number 2 between the double quotes. And the second line, I have not put those double quotes and just entered number 2. Okay. When you look at the output of this, you will see both has 2, but in reality, the first line will create 2 as a string. It would be a text format. So if you want to apply some operations as a number like add, let's say 2 plus 3, you will not be able to do that because string cannot add. You cannot add an integer with a number with a string. So it has to be in the same number format. Okay, we will learn more about this when we go through operations tutorial. For now, it is just to represent that the same number can be represented as a string as well as a number. Okay, now let's turn to the next type, which is numbers. Okay, we'll start with what is a number. Characteristics of numerical values which determine its kind, range and application is called a type. Okay, and if you look at the type of numbers, so there are two types, integers and floating point. Let's cover integers first. Integers meaning there are no decimals to it. Okay, so a whole number is called an integer. Let's talk about the syntax for these integers which are allowed by Python and which are not allowed. Okay, so if you add commas, dots, spaces, it will not recognize. So it will not be treated as an integer or a number. So avoid these and let's talk about what is accepted besides not putting any of this is an underscore. If you use underscore, it is accepted by Python 3.6. Okay, let's look at an example to better understand this. For example, you need to write 1110 11. Okay, so how do you put it? If you use 1 comma 111 or 1.111 or 1 space 111, okay, these three types, these are not allowed. It will not be accepted. But if you write 111 without a comma, without a space or a dot, it will be treated as 1111. Okay, or you can use an underscore, 1 underscore 1, or it will still read it as the same 1111. Now let's look at another example. Okay, so if you want to write some number like this, instead of writing so many zeros in it, there's a chance that you might miss the zero. So there is another form which we usually use in maths is 3 into 10 raised to the power 8. Okay, so for doing that, you can code it as using an exponential e sign. So both uppercase and lowercase are allowed. So you can write it as 3e8 or 3 capital E8. So this e, your capital E or small e, is called an exponent for this integer. Now let's talk about the syntax again for this. So the symbol or after that e symbol, the value has to be an integer. What I mean is 10 raised to power 8. It cannot be 8.5. It has to be a whole number, an integer. The value before the symbol e may be an integer. Okay, you can use a floating point also. Now the same thing. So the examples that we talk about, the 1111. Let's look at examples. So what I've done is you writing it 1111 without a comma, dot, or anything, and with an underscore and with a comma. Let's see the outputs. What we'll get. So 111 it is using correctly reading as both of them. If I use an underscore, if you look, both of them are giving a result of 11111. But if I use a comma, if you remember when in our previous tutorials we have seen that with comma print reads as two arguments. So it is assumed that one is one argument and 111 is another argument. So it is given with a space. Now let's look at the other example that we were just discussing. If we want to print 3 into 10 power 8. Okay, so we can use both small e and capital E, and we can see the result is the same. Let's talk about, for example, if you want a negative as a power. Okay, 16 e की power minus 4. So what will it give? It will give 0.0016. So it is reading correctly. What if we just discussed that after e it has to be a integer? What if I use a floating point? So I've used 0.4. Let's see what it will do. It will give an error because this is not accepted. So it is giving invalid syntax. Alright, so this verifies our assumptions. Now let's move to floats. So what is float? In contrast to integer, it is basically acceptable decimal fractions. Okay, so 0.4 which we just used is your floating point number. And a good thing about this is if you write 0.4 or you just write 0.4, both are acceptable. So you don't need to write 0 every time before a point unless it's this non-zero element. So that's all about floats. Let's move to strings. So what is strings? We just learned string. We know that strings is just a text and it needs quotes before and after. What if, now let's talk about what if I want to print these double quotes instead. What do I do? If it is not reading double quote, if we just use a double quote and the print function is automatically giving an output within those quotes. So what if I want to print something like I like and then have double quotes and Monty Python? Okay, so there are two ways to it. Let's discuss those two ways. One is you use twice you use the backslash, as we learned prior. Backslash or the escape character to print that. Okay, so what would the escape character do? It will escape the next character. So if we use double quote after backslash, it will escape it. It will not execute as a code, right? So you will get it printed. Or another way which I like is, so the good thing of Python is it reads both apostrophe and double quotes. Okay, so you can use a combination of these. Let's learn this through example. Okay, so this is what I wanted to, let's look at the output of this. This is what we want to print. I like and Monty Python in double quotes. If I do that, the result is it is getting an error that there is. So what it is doing is it is assuming this as the first argument. Then it is assuming there is no argument between. This Monty Python does not as an argument. So it is assuming this is the start code and this is the closing code for the first argument. But for this second argument, there is no code. Okay. And for these double quotes, we have not printed anything. Okay, and there are no commas. So that is why it is giving a syntax error. Now let's first use backslash. How would I use? So before these double quotes, which I want to be printed as my result, in the result, I will use a backslash. So let's see the output for this. So now it gives us the desired output. I like Monty Python in double quotes. Okay. Now let's try with apostrophe. So what I've done is, as usual, whatever we put in the print, we put it in double quotes. So I have started with double quotes and everything after what I need, I put down the double quotes, closing. And in between, where I wanted double quotes to be printed or anything to be highlighted, So I put the single apostrophes before that, Python, and after Monty Python. So looking at the output, my output will look as I like Monty Python. Now, what if I wanted double quotes instead of an apostrophe with the Monty Python? So we'll just change it. So we'll use apostrophe while printing and use Monty Python. So it will give me this result, desired result. So you can see both with backslash and with using apostrophe, I get my desired result. Now let's move on to Boolean values. This is a rather small one. So as we understand, computers understand zeros and ones value. So the Boolean value is based on the concept of truthfulness. Okay. So if it is true, then the value is 1. If it is false, then the value is 0. Now looking at this true and false, so this is case sensitive. If you use all the TRUE in true as capital, it will not work. So there is a particular syntax and case sensitivity associated with this. Okay, so it has only the T and F of true and false have to be capital letters, rest have to be in the lowercase. Now the binary system, so this Boolean value works on the binary system. Okay, so the binary system is a system of numbers that employs 2 as a base. Okay, so let's understand this. So as we mentioned, the computer understands the language of zeros and one, which is your binary system. So a number, let's say 1011. Okay, so this is being inputted. So the input that we have given to our computer is 1011. Okay, so this is read as finally an output which is understandable to us is 11. So the 11 value for us, when computer reads it, it reads it as 1011. So now, okay, now let's understand how this value represents 11. So as we mentioned, the binary system works on 2 as a base. Okay, so how it works is it moves from right to left. So the last one represents your 0 base. Then the second one becomes 1, 2, and the first one becomes 3. Okay, so whatever this value, so let's talk about this one. Okay, first one. So this 1 into 2 power the position, which was 3. Okay, plus now 0, which is the value here, 0 into 2 power the position, which was 2. So this, again, let's look at the positions first. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So these becomes our power to the base 2. And whatever the value it is, it becomes multiple of that base 2 power the position. Okay, now again looking at the evaluation. So this becomes, now this number 1, first one is represented as 1 into 2 power 3. Okay, plus now this 0 is my value 0 into 2 power position, which is 2. Now the next one plus 1 into 2 power 1 being the position. The next one plus 1 into 2 power 0. So now as you know, 2 power 3 becomes 8, 8 into 1 becomes your 8, and 0 multiplied with anything will become your 0. Then 1 into 2 power 1 is 1. So 1 into 1 becomes your 2 power 1 becomes your 2. So it becomes 2 into 1 becomes 2. Now 2 power 0 becomes 1. 1 into 1 becomes 1. So 8 plus 2 plus 1, which represents 11. So this is all about the literals. In the next video, we would learn about operations on this basics of numbers. Thank you.